Your home with BuildAid on Mix 93.8. Proudly brought to you by AfriSam. AfriSam, creating concrete possibilities.
BuildAid on Mix 93.8 FM. Good evening. My name's Graham Alexander. In the studio, Kay Simon's away. Nonhlanhla is looking after the desk. I'm going to be chatting to Brendan Lowen from Everite, talking about pretty much a legendary company and what they do, but we're also going to get into building systems and how things work. What else are we doing, Kay?
Well, we've got a really easy question tonight, because you're always going on about the fact that we need to do building landmarks, and we have one tonight. And if you know which one it is, you're just going to have to SMS us on 41348, and I'm going to give you one clue. The person that this landmark is named after is having a birthday on Monday, and you're probably going to do something special for this birthday.
Okay, you meant to make up difficult ones. That's so easy.
Yeah, you always moan that they're too hard. Here's a very easy one. So if you know the answer, SMS us on 41348.
Brendan Lowen from Everite, welcome.
Thank you, Graham.
Thanks for coming to chat to us. Brendan is the Business Development Manager at Everite. If you haven't heard that brand, then maybe you weren't in the building industry. How long has Everite been around?
Graham, Everite's been around for 75 years now. A historical brand in the industry. And for the first time, we've been doing some collaborations with some overseas companies, parent companies to our business. So it's quite exciting times in the history of our business.
You're also, Brendan, involved in a website that you've developed called Advanced Building. Tell us a little bit about that.
You know, both through my professional experience in architecture as well as with various manufacturing companies, I've been exposed to a lot of different materials and certainly different trends and technologies. And the website is really just an extension of my thoughts on a day-to-day basis and a reasonable platform, certainly from a content point of view, where I'm able to express my perspective of the industry.
What kind of products do you guys make? Just a quick overview. If we think of Everite, I don't know if people think of pipes or columns or ceilings. What do you guys make?
Over many years, there's been a range of products that Everite have been well known for, probably most famously for the Big Six profile, which is a roof sheeting product. But more so today, the sheets, the flat sheets, which manifest in our ceiling products, our facade products, and certainly building planks, are very commonly seen in our industry today. The business as well also makes pipes and columns, which is a real success story of the business over recent times. And there's an export angle to this particular product line as well.
You've been making some of those products, Brendan, for some time, for 75 years for some of the products. Where to in the future? Are you guys going to diversify, look at different types of building materials?
Quite right. Over the last few years, we have, as a business, have looked introspectively at where we want to see ourselves in the future. A lot of fibre cement products are generally based on trends of the time, and that manifests in a lot of our ranges. But one would understand that would come to an end at some point. What this has meant is that we, as a business, have looked at a range of other different types of materials that we don't manufacture, but certainly are able to give a lot of reach and exposure to throughout Southern Africa, which as a business we have really earned the ability to do over many years.
When we come back, Brendan, I want to chat to you about building systems as opposed to just a particular product.
Your home with BuildAid on Mix brings you all sorts of interesting info about building. Graham Alexander chats to different guests every Wednesday evening between 6 and 7. Proudly brought to you by AfriSam.
Brendan, when it comes to products like ceiling boards, fascias, facades, and so on, you guys, I think, refer to it as a system or a solution, because it doesn't just come with boards, it comes with a whole lot of other things. So do you have the people in place to help a homeowner, a contractor to fathom out what goes into a system?
Yeah, certainly. These materials have been in existence in the industry for many years. So whenever one talks about a particular product, it's always best practice to understand other materials that it would be in the same space with. For instance, with fixings that would apply themselves to ceiling boards or the lining, or building planks for that matter, to understand whether or not you are based at the coast, and those fixtures would require protective coating. And similarly within the ceiling space as well, if you're going to be joining ceiling boards, to use appropriate H-strip profile covers. It's really just understanding what materials complement each other. And as far as understanding who would be the best person to install it, we have references, certainly from builders, and many of the retail stores are very proficient in this space as well. So they would certainly lend their expertise and their advice to budding homeowners.
When it comes to alternative building, and I know a number of manufacturers shoot me down when I use that word, because why is it an alternative? It's just building. But I think it's a word that everybody, or phrase everybody understands, as being not bricks, or not mortar and brick. You guys make boards and different systems that go with that. So obviously you have walling systems and roofing systems that might not be as conventional as brick and mortar. How have you found that market? Is it coming alive?
You know, the market, when one talks about the word alternative, I suppose it's really only considered alternative because it hasn't been used or hasn't found traction as often as something that we accept to be the norm. So as soon as a material or a system is being used more commonly, the word alternative starts to move away, and a building code suddenly becomes apparent for that type of building method. But as far as our materials are concerned, our materials lend themselves to, let's call it traditional structures, which would be your typical brick and mortar, in the sense that facades can add a new skin to the external envelope of the building, and similarly to the lightweight construction methodologies that exist today. SASFA in South Africa promotes the light steel frame system, and have done so for quite a few years now. Our materials work very well on these lightweight structures, certainly from an external walling perspective or cladding perspective, and as well from a ceiling space as well.
When you're looking for alternatives, Brendan, and I know you've got your website, Advanced Building, as a homeowner or a contractor in the residential building industry, I want to find an alternative for, let's say, a skirting, which is conventionally a piece of molded Meranti, which is cool. It looks fine, but it could be a whole lot of other things.
It certainly could be. I mean, we won't knock Meranti. I've just done a renovation and I've got Meranti skirting. So
have I.
Yeah. So you know, you can't knock the traditional stuff. But certainly as far as alternatives in that space is concerned, and looking at new materials, and using skirtings as an example, there are various different forms of synthetic materials that are on the market now. There are various types of plastics, and certainly high density polystyrenes that occupy the segment of skirtings as well, that again provide the consumer with alternatives to consider. Each of them have their own unique benefits, and really it will be up to the consumer where they find value in which product they select. But going back to what you mentioned with regards to MyTech, I think we've become a lot smarter in how we are providing the markets with new materials, not necessarily just the way in which they're being made, but how they are constructed or erected. And whether it's on-site or off-site in a quality-controlled environment, what we're trying to promote is that the end result is a successful solution for the client. And where the client sees value in that, so too then does everyone else in that value chain. They get to protect the value of their products, the value of its presence in the marketplace, and ultimately a higher-performing end result is what everybody is going to be in favor for.
When it comes to synthetic versus authentic, it's another note I made of something you wanted to mention. So I leave it to you, Brendan.
I think again, going back to materials, we've had historical materials or traditional materials that have been in our environment for many years, such as timber. Let's look at steel. Fantastic materials to work with even today. But one shouldn't discount the performance benefits that a synthetic derivative may be able to offer the client. Materials that can be made from waste product, for instance, is one example that I'll put forward. But certainly, and plastic being one of those, it lends itself very well to a multitude of different materials that fit very well within a housing environment. Cornices, skirtings are just two that we've touched on earlier as well. So there isn't really a one is better than the other, but certainly, again, it provides the client or the homeowner in this instance with other options in which to select. And they may select those either based on price or the fact that they feel more comfortable that they're using a material that has actually impacted far less on the environment than what the first choice may have done so.
Brendan, you studied architecture, and I think it comes through in your knowledge and passion for building materials. It's really been a pleasure chatting to you, not only about Everite and your products, but building generally. And I hope we can do this again soon.
Thanks, Graham. Thank you very much for the opportunity. It's always a great privilege to have a platform to speak about materials of this nature, and it doesn't really come by very often. So I really enjoyed the opportunity. Thank you.
Let's check with Kay, who won the book.
Nick Ingram has won the book. He's also just recently moved into his first flat, so he's going to find it very useful. And the answer we were looking for is Nelson Mandela Bridge, of course, and well done to everyone who got it right. Very easy. Next week we're going to challenge you a little bit more.
We do this every Wednesday between 6 and 7. Chat to you next week. Ciao.
Your home with BuildAid on Mix brings you all sorts of interesting info about building. Graham Alexander chats to different guests every Wednesday evening between 6 and 7. Proudly brought to you by AfriSam. AfriSam, creating concrete possibilities.